afternoon and welcome to Tetewathá Partyline Talkshow. I'm your host, Len Stacy, and today is Friday, so it's MCK Friday, and I'm joined today by Chief Lindsay LeBorgne, and it's the first time or second time since you've been elected to council.
The day after the election, remember,
yes.
we all came in. All the council members that had been elected came in and gave, their 5-minute take on the election.
Okay, so since that time, what are some of the portfolios that you've been given?
Well, I'll just give you the rundown. Yeah, I'm on the environment portfolio with Clinton Phillips. I'm on lands and territories, and that portfolio includes myself, Clinton Phillips, and Gina Deere, and Carl Horn. I'm on administrative affairs, which is called the FAO, which is Finance, Administration, and Operations Committee. Mike DeLille, Rhonda Kirby, and myself. And finally, infrastructure, transport, and operations. That's myself, Carl Horn, and Rhonda.
Okay. So which one of these is occupying most of your time, or, just maybe give a little bit of update on where you've been at? Because you've been out of this how long?
I was out for 12 years, got back in, and everything has been changed from the way it was before. I guess they made it much more structured. Before, council members had a lot more, maybe too much input. Now it's more committees, the way that things are done. So it probably works out much better. Maybe if people you hear about, you want fairness, you don't want chiefs, bulldozing their opinions. So there's more of a committee type structure to these things. And it's been a lot of different changes since I was gone.
Okay, so maybe a little bit about your files and where you're at.
Well, everybody...
They're just basically starting, right?
Everybody knows what the environment's about. That's been around for quite a while now. It used to be EVA.
Yeah.
And when I was there before. And lands and territories used to be myself and Melvin Zachary. And again, like I said, council members had quite a large, and I guess to an extent they still have a large, part of their personalities, so to speak, are in the committees. But again, it's spread out over, half a dozen members on different committees. And so you get more of a flavor of a committee, people doing things and not one person, I guess, for lack of a better word, hogging, all the the things that go on. Also, the used to be the executive committee. Now it's called FAO, and again, like I said, it's finance, administration, and operations. So, just by the way it's said, we deal with the financial things that go on in the office and in the community, the administration, and how things are operated. Just the other day we were doing with the holiday structure, because you're supposed to have X amount of holidays per year. And from year to year, the way they fall, you decide on how those things are going to be, put in place. And then finally, for the infrastructure, transport, and operations, it's the infrastructure of the community, meaning water, sewer, that type of thing. Transport, the highways and the byways. And the way that's operated, the way the things are done. Okay. So those are my four. But as a council member, you're involved with all of them, and you're allowed to sit in any committee. We have, there's the Heritage Committee, there's Indigenous Rights and Research, Intergovernmental Relations, and on and on and on. And all council members are open to be in any, to go to any committee. And, I guess in a way you have a little bit of input with the portfolio chiefs. So in a way, we're involved in all of them, but those four specific ones I mentioned are the ones that I'm sitting on for sure.
Okay, I may as well ask this question and get it over with. How was your first community meeting?
Actually, it was my second.
Okay, your second one. I have to ask it.
My second community meeting. Well, you know what? It was quite interesting. Put it that way. I know the Eastern Door mentioned about a physical altercation. I don't know really what they meant by that, because nobody was struck, nobody was touched that I seen. But there was a gentleman came up quite forcefully towards the table. A bunch of us jumped up, Joe included, because, you don't know when somebody comes. He didn't run, but he came like quite quickly up. And so, we jumped up and we're like, oh, take it easy. It's only a meeting, that type of thing. And, there was some words between him and Joe, and the gentleman went and sat back down. So, again, I guess if they're going to call that a physical altercation, there was some physics involved that they they moved around, but there was nobody struck anybody.
Okay.
Some harsh words were exchanged, not only with, between Joe and him, but there were other people at the meeting that were quite vociferous.
But I guess one of the things is to me, this is basically something that's been going on and brewing since way before the election time, that the community's not happy with certain things, certain organizations. There's been blow-ups and a lack of communication, a lack of, I'm not even sure what it is, but you see it brewing. What's your take? What do you think is going on, and what do we do to do something about it? Because it's not respectful, it's not peaceful, it's not helpful
Yeah.
in terms of our own culture and things we've learned. Like people are angry and upset.
Absolutely. And you know what? I can't really think of why. The only thing I could say is maybe historically, our people have been held back, and we've been abused. You want to go through the residential school system, the church, holding our property and then giving 2/3 of it away, the government, suppressing people from town. And I think there's an inherent anger, but it's held deep within inside ourselves. And unfortunately, now we're running all our institutions, and, people have to go somewhere when you're angry. Unfortunately, we're the ones that are in the forefront now. So who do you're not going to hit somebody that's not involved. We're the government of the day, and so we're the ones that they look to. Not to say that everything we do is blameless. I mean, sometimes people do. We know what happened just recently in our housing department. People were angry about that. These things happen, and unfortunately, people have to vent their anger somewhere, and we're the ones that are. When you're up there, that's the one they're going to aim at, right?
And that's leadership. That's part of leadership.
It's part of, you don't like to have to take it, but you do have to absorb it, and you have to look at it. As I was saying, is it really directed at you, or it's just that's the place where to strike out? You know what I mean? There's no place else to go, so you have to go to the one that's the figurehead.
Yeah, and I think that's part of it, because I'm not sure it's targeted at one thing. It's all over. It's in every system. It's education. I've seen some very nasty stuff there. I've seen some very nasty stuff when the cultural center was, looking for a new location.
Yes.
And that. I mean, it's blown up. And
even at sports, you go to a sporting event, what happens there?
Please don't go to sports. Please don't go to sports.
But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
People have to vent their anger, and you have to vent it at the one that's in front of you, so to speak. So if we happen to be, council happens to be the ones in front, we're going to get the angry people. That's just the way of life.
You're listening to K1037's Tetewathá Partyline Talk Show. Welcome back to Tetewathá Partyline Talk Show. I'm your host, Len Stacy, and today is MCK Friday, and I'm joined by Chief Lindsay LeBorgne. And prior to go into break, we were speaking about the community meeting, his second meeting, and it got a little rough. And but I guess one of the things as a leader, and I'm going to ask this of you, what is it that you think we need to do to solve this? Because our community's not necessarily in a good way.
Well, Luann, that's if I could answer that, correctly. I mean, I guess everything would be solved. But I'll answer the only way I could think of. Having lived in New York City for a long time, and I come back here, and ladies and gentlemen, please take my word on this. We have it very good here in Kahnawake. There is no place else I would rather live than Kahnawake. You're free here. Pretty much you could do almost anything you want as long as you're not, bothering somebody else. You could do what you want here. It's great. There's no place else I'd rather live. Now, that being said, I know people have problems. Just recently, people were cheated out of their money, so to speak. And I know that's a problem, but, it was caught. Might not have been caught right away, but it was caught. The police are handling it now. That department is being restructured, and we're going to try to make it as good as we can to make it fair for everybody that was involved and help them out. We're working on it. At the end of the day, we're only human beings. We make mistakes. We don't always do the right thing, but we got to try to make it right. So that's what I would tell people out there. And I know, there's probably a lot of people rolling their eyes, et cetera, but that's the truth. I'm just telling you as it is.
When you got on council, what was your idea for getting on council, and what did you want to bring to the table?
Well, the thing was, when I got out of council, I was thinking of getting out, maybe one or two more terms, and when you go out the way I went out, it's definitely uncomfortable. It's definitely not the way I would have liked to have gone out, and I felt that I could still do things to help the community, and I thought, well, let me take a chance. I just turned 60, so I'm not a youngster. Been around, a fairly long time, and I thought, I still have an opportunity to serve the community, and it's an honor to serve. I'm quite humbled that I was able to get back in, and I thank anybody out there that supported me. And for those who didn't, I would just like to I hope that I can maybe garner your support by doing the right thing.
But I guess that, and having said that, you said to serve the community. And I think sometimes that's where people get lost. That line of serving the community and being a leader at the same time. Sometimes it's very difficult because everybody in our community has different needs. And I know, if you take it to the having different needs, we can't argue over something without going for the jugular. We can't have a disagreement unless I really, really hate you. And it's really a bad thing, but it's like, why can't we just bring points up and discuss and debate and dialogue instead of it getting to that extreme? And I guess that's what I'm trying to get at, from when council before to coming back now. It seems like we're in different times.
Again, I don't understand why people will act, in a very aggressive way like that. I can understand being angry. I can understand maybe not getting your way, but that's not something that I've done. So that's why I don't have the same mindset to, sometimes, I'll take, for example, the meeting.
Right.
There were personal things. It wasn't just you're doing this job that I don't agree with. There were personal animosities that were thrown in, sort of like, you've done this before and I know that. No, you're a liar. And then like that. It doesn't help. It just makes people more angry. It makes them, get behind your walls more. I think you just have to be more, I'm not going to say friendly, but more courteous to each other. How would you like to be talked to if it was reversed, if you were in my place? And that's why I found it so foreign for people to talk to somebody like, I would never do that. I don't do that. So I just didn't understand why. Just take a moment, try to put yourself into the position that we're in, because we're not only trying to help you as an individual, we're trying to fashion it so it helps everybody, not just an individual. And then what happens is that individual that feels like, well, you're not helping me. So, you could probably find 100 people that'll say, I love it, and another 100 that say, I hate it. So it's one of those things where you have to do what you think is right, because no matter what you do, somebody's going to say you did the wrong thing. So that's the only way I could think of it. Just do what you think is the right thing to do and move on.
Yeah.
There's nothing else you can do. And in 2 years, 2.5 years, the people have a chance again to turf you out if they don't like how you operate. Or if you actually do something so egregious that you have to be removed.
Let me ask a question. If a community member had questions or comments, say on any of your portfolios, can they go to the council office and meet with you and bring concerns? And I guess I'm not sure, like, our council chiefs, because I'll go back, and I'm going back when each area had its own section in town.
That's right.
And if you had a problem, you went,
to
and
your
our area
section
was
chief.
like Paul Deere,
Yeah,
I'll use
your
example.
section guy, yeah.
You know, and are the council chiefs accessible and including yourself?
Well, that was done away with like 40 years ago.
know.
But that being said, anybody is accessible.
Yeah.
The numbers are, the number to the council office is there. You call the council office. I want to speak to Lindsay. I want to speak to. They transfer it to us, or you come there and go to the front desk and say, can you call Lindsay? And I like to speak with him, and they'll call us and we'll say send them up. And yeah, that's. I know it's the council office, but it's not like it's not like Fort Knox. You just go there and request to speak to somebody or whatever, or call. I had a call just the other day from somebody with a concern about something, and I was, yeah, sure, come on down, we'll talk about it. So I don't know where that idea comes from. I'm not saying you did it, but I mean, I know people have that idea, like you're inaccessible. I mean, I don't know how many people I run into going to the post office, or you run into people all the time. You have a question, ask it. It'll only take a few minutes, hopefully.
Because I think sometimes, and it sounds simple, but it's like, ask questions, find out information, find out fact. I know social media contributes to a lot of the issues, unfortunately. Well, if someone puts a point out, and next thing you know, you're off into a whole other 8 topics and whatever. And you have to kind of take those things with a grain of salt.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I'll bring up a topic that happened last week with the Joe Rodo and the road being made, the talk about the road being made public. On social media, my wife, Margie, says to me, Liz, did you see this? Did you know this? So I look at it, and it's like, all over the board, SQ are coming in and all. And I was like, you know what? We never said that was going to happen. I said, that's got to be wrong. It was a Saturday, I think. So we're not meeting till Monday. I said, that's just not right. I don't remember seeing that or hearing that. So, I texted a few of the other council members. Everybody said the same thing. Monday morning, the first thing we talk about is that. Clinton said, well, it was an idea that was spoken about. It was, wasn't going to be a done deal. Anyway, so just to make sure that everybody else knows it's not being done. It was something that was talked about to try to alleviate a problem, but apparently it'll cause more problems, so it was nixed. So, I mean, things like that. But, I mean, the stuff I read, I mean, they were going to, like, tar and feather us and, shoot, they're all selling out. And I'm like, my God, it takes a life of its own.
And that's, I think, and I think that's a perfect example, because that was exactly what happened. That Monday, Clinton came on the show. I made some room for him, and it was like, wow, he had the whole town on his shoulder, because of leading that particular file. And he said, no, it was just an idea. But that idea, went like wildfire.
Oh, yeah. I think Facebook now, unfortunately, has turned into a video version of like National Enquirer. Wild ideas are put out there, and then people take that and run with it, and it becomes something else. And then, not to say that everything on there is wrong, but a lot of times, if you see something that looks kind of outrageous, before you get worked up, wait a little while, and
or call people, ask questions.
Exactly.
There's a lot of resource people in this community.
Exactly.
You can call anybody at the council office.
But I mean, there is some outrageous things on there.
I know.
But all I would say is, everybody, just when you see something that you think is really crazy, just wait until you hear from somebody that would have an idea what's going on, and don't get all worked up. Maybe that's why people are worked up too. The stuff you read on there,
Yeah. I'm just looking for contributors and looking for ideas, because it's not nice. The community's like ready to explode, and not one particular area. It's a lot of different things. But, I'm wondering,
it's like anything. I mean, don't go grab the pitchforks and knives and torches until, you talk to somebody, and just calm down. We'll get to the bottom of it, and it's not all gloom and doom. And that, for myself and the other people I'm on council with, I just want to say to people, we're not selling anybody out. I have no intention of selling anybody out. I expect to spend the rest of my life here and everything. Why would I do that? Or why would anybody else do that? We're not here to harm anybody. We're here to help if we can. That's all.
Okay, you're listening to K1037, Tetewathá, Partyline Talk Show. I guess let's shift gears a little bit and let's move to back to our hometown there, New York, and we'll talk about
you want to talk about the photo?
Yeah, let's talk about that. I was really excited when I heard Paul's news report this morning. I guess being from New York, my dad being an iron worker, and the whole thing, all our dads,
uncles and grandfathers
everybody,
and brothers,
yeah, so I guess a little bit. How did that start? Like, how did you get involved in that particular thing?
Well, I got a call from my daughter, Brittany. Somehow, I wish I could remember. I don't know how she got in touch with her. She said that we're thinking about doing these photos. Are you interested? And I was like, sure. Where do I have to do it? And the girl got in touch with me, and it happened to be in our old neighborhood.
Really?
Just a couple of blocks down from State Street on Bond.
Yes.
So I went down there, and the girl had this idea of taking photographs on steel plates or tin plates, and they used to be called tin types during the Civil War. And it involves standing still for 12 seconds or 10 seconds. You cannot move. It's when they expose the film, so to speak, to light in your image, and then she would do whatever she has to do with her chemicals, and there's the picture. And I think the whole idea was iron workers, steel, and then using this metal to take the picture, and that's how it came about. Plus, she liked the idea or she didn't know that there were Mohawk guys involved with rescue recovery efforts and the building of the building originally, and that was her idea. And then she contacted us, and I think there were about 24 guys altogether, and I don't know how I got picked out of the bunch. One day I got a call and asking if I was interested in doing a reading, a little bio sort of me that goes with my picture, and I said sure. I did that. Then the next thing they asked me, would you like to come down? There's going to be a little question and answer session down there with the business agent from Local 40, was Bobby Walsh and herself.
Oh, okay.
So I said, sure, why not? And that's how it all came to be.
And this happened in Brooklyn or Manhattan? I
was working in Brooklyn at the time, and I got the call, and I met her in Brooklyn as well.
Okay.
But I mean, there's guys not only from Kahnawake, there's some guys from Akwesasne and other places also involved, but they're all Mohawks.
Yeah, because I know my dad worked with quite a few guys from Akwesasne, and I think there were a couple even from Six Nations. Actually.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
Back in the day, we're going way back.
There's still a lot of guys that are, around. We don't have the amount of iron workers that we, in our time when we were kids, there was probably like 500 and their families. Now you're probably under 100, I would say maybe 70, 80 guys or something like that. Slowly, not dying out, but, the kids aren't going into that. They're going to college, et cetera, getting other jobs.
What museum again is it going to be?
It's going to be in the World Trade Center Museum, right there between the footprints of the two towers. They built a museum under there, so you could actually see the foundations of the Twin Towers at the time. The walls and everything. It's really interesting.
Did your dad work on the Twin Towers?
My dad was working for Koch at the time, which did. Okay. And what happened was he was a boss that would go job to job. Yeah. So when he wasn't on some other job, he would go back to the Trade Center. So he wasn't there exclusively, but he was back and forth, dozen times during the construction. I was
trying to remember some of the guys that originally worked on the Twin Towers, but my dad was kind of in the same boat, always moving,
bouncing back and forth.
To a variety of jobs. So I don't remember all of them.
I had a few uncles, like Sonny Douglas.
Yes.
Was there. Terry Rice, the late Terry Rice, was there. That I know for sure. Peter Stacy was there. The late Peter Stacy.
Wow.
Yeah, he worked there as well.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of guys that from town that worked there.
Yeah. Okay. So when are you going back down there, or it's just going to be a tape of the interview?
No, I'm going down for December 13th, I think it is. So
Okay.
I'll be there. Yeah. And I went in November because I had to go down to their sound studio in the site itself, and I did it's only like a paragraph, 25 sentences, but they wanted me to go there and do it. So.
Oh, I'm sure that was a problem to head back.
Oh yeah,
there.
I hated it.
I'm sure you hate New
I got
York.
stuck in Nathan's and the pizza parlors and all that.
That's the only thing. Every time we talk about New York, the food comes out.
Food,
You gotta
absolutely,
have, you gotta have your Junior's
Gotta have-
cheesecake. Oh
absolutely.
my Lord, yeah.
Yeah,
Whoever goes usually brings back
Or bring one
everything.
back, right?
Yeah. So again, it's a very exciting thing that the city's acknowledging our people from here, because they were the builders of basically most of the skylines, the bridges.
In the last 100 years.
Yeah.
Sure. And they continue to be as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's an acknowledgement. I mean, it's one of the things we're very proud about being involved with, myself included. Like I said, my grandfathers and my dad. And I was glad I was able to work with my father. I worked with your dad.
Oh, I know you work with my
your
dad.
brothers. I traveled with.
With my brothers.
I traveled with them too. We had a lot of laughs. We had a lot of fun, and you never remember, like, you don't really remember the hard times of the bad. You always remember the good times. But anybody who did ironwork that's listening knows there's a lot of times when it's really, not a great.
And it helped that
a
you
fun thing
lived
to
all
do.
in the same building.
We all lived in the same building. Yeah, that was
That was
pretty
like
cool.
the family building for sure.
Absolutely, for like 60, 70 years, right?
Yeah. All right, we'll take a break and we'll be right back. Welcome back to Tetewathá Partyline Talk Show. I'm your host, Len Stacy, and today's MCK Friday. I'm joined by Chief Lindsay LeBorgne, and we kind of been like all over the map talking a whole bunch of things and basically getting caught up a little bit. I guess let's talk about some of the very hot topics right now.
Sure.
Let's talk a little bit about S3 and what's going to happen and what your thoughts are in terms of the impact on the community and yesterday, was it yesterday or day before the Tuesday, the letter sent to the Prime Minister?
Yeah. Well, if anybody has been paying attention or reading the Eastern Door or any of the bulletins that we put out, Canada, in trying to rectify what they did to the women that had married out and their children, sort of went the other way. The pendulum, instead of swinging back towards a middle ground, it went way over to the left. And they're allowing people with very little, I'm not going to say non-existent, because obviously they have to have some lineage.
Really?
But it's so far, removed from Kahnawake that we probably wouldn't even have any idea who they were. They probably were never here, a lot of them, because the estimates of the amount of people that will be eligible to be on our membership list are between 30,000 and about 65,000. Now, just think, when our community only has 6,000 people living here, approximately. In the summertime, it probably goes up to 8. So, just for argument's sake, we'll say 7,000 people here pretty much all the time. Now, we're going to have that many people possibly coming and saying, hey, I want a piece of land, I want water and sewer. Just think of the implications of that.
We already have a very bad housing issue,
Exactly.
or shortage, I should say.
For sure. And then, some of those people will be like, hey, I don't really care, but I just want, I want my free stuff that I'm,
and
eligible for.
And I'll
so to
ask this
speak.
question: when they were opening up the floodgates, as like you said, swinging the pendulum the other way, they're not considering adding any resources to that, or giving us back land, say from seniority or.
That's the problem. Like, there's no talk of, we're going to have that many more people, so we're going to give this much. No, it's going to be. I think it's going to be whatever it is. You got to divvy it up now into slivers. So, anybody out there, just think of the problems of having, even if all of them didn't come back, let's just say 10,000 came back, still more than double the population. We couldn't handle it. I don't think we should have to.
Right.
We didn't create this problem. They created the problem. So you figure out how to fix it without impacting those of us who are still here living in Kahnawake. And that was the gist of the letter that was sent to the minister. And obviously, as usual, Canada does something, then they hand it to you and go, oh, by the way, this is what you have to abide by. And not only us, but every First Nation. So it's not a way to operate. I don't think it's fair. Anyway, we did totally disagree with the system. I feel sorry for those who were
actually on the list waiting.
That's right. What about the people that are actually
that belong here?
What about the people that you could say, well, they don't quite have 4 but they got 3 great-grandparents? Well, never mind you. We got a guy who was his great-grandfather that he never met or knew, but now he's eligible to come in. It's just wrong. It's wrong-headed. I don't understand the thinking. Again, Canada swings and misses, I think you were earlier. You had mentioned the cannabis.
Yes,
issue,
I had
right?
a question. What are your thoughts, and what do you think needs to happen in that area?
All right, for those
because
out there,
we have a lot of people on a wide variety.
Yeah,
of,
sure. You have people on the left, the right, and there's probably some people that are willing to meet in the middle. Well, again, this is my own personal feeling. I never been a drug user. I'm not trying to put anybody down. Please, people, don't get me wrong. I know some people like to do that. That's your business. I don't think it's a good idea. I think Canada, again, took a swing and missed without asking all First Nations that already have significant problems with substance abuse. We know that's a fact. That happens. So what are we going to do? We're going to make this legal. It's,
we don't have control of alcohol.
Yeah.
And that's legal.
Exactly. It's legal, and we still have problems.
Yeah.
But, we have a fire, so wait, I'm going to throw gasoline on it. I think it's a wrong approach. Now, that's only my opinion. Some people would say, well, I think, if you're a responsible adult, I should be able to smoke and enjoy that. Well, I'm not condemning you, but I have to sort of listen to what the majority of people feel. So the whole cannabis thing was we had to make a law, because if we don't make a law that for Kahnawake, we're just going to have to go by what the province and the feds have. That's the number one problem. Do we want to have our own law, or do we want to just say, no, we're just going to follow? That's the thing.
Okay.
And also, now, if we ever decide, if it's decided, well, you know what, we are going to have cannabis here, who's going to decide that, and how is it going to be managed? Personally, I feel I have no problem if, there's Canopy, right?
Right.
This group that, is a big group in that does marijuana growth, and they sell it medicinally and et cetera. Personally, I think medicinally is no problem. I have no problem with that for sure, because there's all sorts of drugs that are legal, and people take them legally. I have no problem with that. That's the way I feel we should. If we're going to do that, it should be more in the medicinal realm. Like, even if we get involved with cannabis and they're here, it should be only for people that need it medicinally and sold, for the outside consumption. But again, that's just me.
Do you think that when the federal government proposed this back a couple of years back, was it to make up for the taxes that were lost on alcohol, tobacco, and all of that to replace? Because to me, that's the whole bottom line, is this, or taxation and tax issues.
But you know how when the government runs things, they usually don't do a good job in it? The off-track betting. Bookies have been doing it forever, and they make money. Then the government gets involved, and it's like, we're losing money. The government, unfortunately, messes things up a lot of times. Look at the post office.
Yeah, it's true. So I have a comment here. What about ratifying things like seniority? We can be overtaken, and I guess it's in regards to the S3.
Yeah, well, that's a good question. So now the government says these 30 to 60,000 people are members of Kahnawake. Now, when we decide to settle the scenery, those people are going to have a say. That's another thing. Actually, that's a very good question. And according to the government, not us again, we're not saying they would have a say, but the government would say you can't do anything unless those people have a chance to be included. Now, if you're someone who just finds out, you know what, I have a great-great-grandmother that was Native, and now I have status. I'm never going to live there. I don't know anybody there. But you know what? When they settle that claim, I want my whatever, amount of money.
Comes down to dollars,
cut from
right?
that, the pie that's going to be shared among everybody if it ever comes to that. So I that's another problem. Mm-hmm. You have people that have no real stake in Kahnawake being able to, tell us how we're going to operate, what we're going to do, what we're going to settle for. It's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. We can't accept that.
Okay, I have a question. We're going back to cannabis
now.
Go ahead,
and go ahead.
How would they regulate it? Because black market in Kahnawake for alcohol and other drugs is not being enforced as it is. And I guess how would the Cannabis Act or law, when you can't even enforce the other areas?
Well, I think that's not, it's not all correct. I know we all know that there's black market everything. Never mind alcohol and tobacco and drugs, and there's black market purses, those Michael Corfonis, all kind of things. There's always going to be that because there's always guys that want to skirt the system and make some extra money by doing something illegally. But it doesn't mean we just say, wow, that we might as well have no law then.
Yeah.
You have to have some sort of law. Can you imagine if, there's always guys speeding, so we might as well just, go whatever speed you want. You have to have some rules and regulation. Some people are going to be caught. It will deter some. And those that are undeterred eventually end up, in jail, in bracelets. So that's the only way I think I can answer that one. There's always going to be bad guys trying to skirt the system.
Okay, I got a new topic for you.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on having community meetings every 2 months? When you were in council before, meetings were monthly and were more productive than today. And I know there's been a group of community members who've been asking to go back to monthly meetings because they'd like to have some kind of dialogue with council chiefs and, be involved in some of the topics that are some of the bigger topics.
Well, I think, again, that goes back to accessibility. We're not like the parliamentarians or something. You're not, you're only going to see us on the evening news. We're in town. We're here. I'm in my numbers in the book. As far as I know, everybody else's numbers in the book. You know where the office is. You don't need any special passes to get in. You just walk in, ask to see me. So we are very accessible. The other thing is, since I was off, they had some sort of poll, or I don't know how they did it, but they decided they came to 3 months would be a good amount of time to go between meetings because the radio, 2 newspapers, the internet, all the different things, you could walk up to us. There's all sorts of ways if you want to interact with council members. There's no barriers. So, that's the way they decide to do it, and I follow the rules.
Right.
That's the rule they go by. I'm fine with that.
But if the community wanted monthly meetings and demanded it, is that something that's an option?
Well,
Just curious.
I don't think you should ever say never. But here's the thing. I always hear that. We don't have an opportunity. And then they say, well, how many people went to that meeting? 20. How many people went to the meeting to ratify this or that? 20. And there was a guy at the meeting the other night that was railing about how we haven't had a meeting in 6 months. And then somebody said, well, we had one in September. And the guy was like, oh, all right. And he sat back down. It was like, I think when you want to have a... Oh, that's me. I'm sorry.
Sorry you're going to be barred from... We're going to have to bar him from the
Sorry,
station.
gang. I'm sorry. All right. So, I mean, is more meetings really going to make a difference? I don't know, because it goes back to the age-old question, why don't more people show up to meetings? So, again, whoever's asking that question, come and see me. I'll talk to you anytime, anywhere.
Because I think one of the things you go back and I can say it was maybe about 18 years old, started attending meetings and going because it was interesting.
There were a lot of people. I remember when I was younger. You're right.
Packed.
Absolutely, yep.
Then all of a sudden it just died out. And I never understood why.
Yeah.
And people, I mean, they got rough. I'm not going to lie. Some of those meetings, especially when membership was the topic, they used to get hot and heavy. But at least people had a forum to talk and a forum to do that. And yeah, we have all these things, but something just doesn't seem to be connecting.
I hear you, and like I said, that's fine. But the thing is, Luann, you get 20 or 30 people. It happens all the time. I can't explain it, but that's what happens. But, again, I was on council 12 years ago, and this has been decided since I was off. I'm sure if you had one of the council members that was on since they decided, they would tell you how many. Because I know there were polls and all kind of things. It wasn't just a spur of the moment, we're only going to have one meeting. Apparently, they asked, and then all right, we're going to go to once every 3 months.
But it's the same thing with the polls. It runs anything from 50 people to, I'm trying to think what was the biggest poll. There haven't been very many.
Well, the one for the land, that was 400 and almost 500.
500.
So but here's the strange thing. That was like for a few hours, right? Like 2 or 3 hours. Now, Rhonda sat out for 6 days for the poll for cannabis, and she only got 400 people. So I have no idea why it goes like that. And she sat at places where, a lot of people go by, and they just... I was there on a Saturday when she was holding it at the bank. Yeah. Well, the bank, but you know what I mean, the building there. And I seen a lot of people, young people. Hey, you want to take this poll? I don't have time. And I seen them walk away. It's like 1 minute, man. 1 minute. Go give your opinion. I can't explain it, but...
I don't know either, and why I thought of it is because I had animal protection on yesterday, and their goal is to get 500, and I wish them luck because people complain about dogs, complain about the animals, the wildlife, and guaranteed they're not going to get anything close. And I feel bad because it's an important issue that affects everybody. As do the thing on cannabis, as does the meeting.
Everything affects everybody, but it just depends on how, even the things you would think... Really, you think that people would be screaming about this S3 because this is really something that could destroy our way of life. Never mind somebody smoking a joint.
And people are complaining we live on a postage stamp as is. So could you imagine enhancing by 10,000 or 60? That's a lot of people. Yeah. And our resources are limited. A lot of programming's not even fully funded.
Like you said earlier,
we're constantly fundraising.
We're housing. We're short on housing, and now you want to add X amount of people. It's crazy. That's why I'm saying the government, for whatever reason, doesn't think these things through, or I don't know. I can't explain it either. I can't. I don't know.
But if you think about it, all of this adds up to the frustration I think that people have. But it's like people need to get out and voice their opinions.
You're right. The bridge is always blocked. All the things that go on, people are just fed up. It's like network. I'm mad and I'm not going to take it anymore.
But I guess it's a difficult time that we're living in, and I think people just need to get out and help voice their opinion, and whatever it is. So we're at the end of our show. Any other? You have maybe about 30 seconds or so.
All I could say is it's been I'm happy that people supported me, and I'm thankful. Like I said, I'll try to do the best that I possibly can do for the best interest in the community. And people just take it easy, everybody. We're not out here. Nobody's wants to usurp everybody's rights and the things that you hear. I wish everybody well. I have no animosity.
Well, thank you for joining us. Too bad our Rangers didn't win last night. I had to get that over. Now I feel better. We can't win them all.